folders. We are going to tell us where to get them. So next. So teaching, we can get this information from the English language database, which has been displayed here. You look at the teaching knowledge database. The letters are arranged in alphabetical order. You can see them. This is just an example of a page. So if you're looking for a word that begins with letter A, you will click on here where I'm showing. You will get that word and then get to the word. You can read as much as you can. Interacting with this database gives you a lot of information, and it's actually really, really lovely. As a teacher, I would encourage you to go through this. You will actually not regret it at all. Take your time and get it. So the teaching knowledge database gives you every term and every information you actually need. Take your time to interact with it. Next. So let's get started with looking up methodology. So what do we mean? Methodology is a system or practice or procedures that teachers use to teach. Now, the methodology here will be based on the belief and how the belief on how we learn the language. This is the approach. So for example, we could be talking about grammar translation or the audiolingual method and the direct method that are very clear methodologies that have been used in the past and sometimes are still being used. So in the classroom, many teachers base their lessons on a mixture of approaches to meet the different needs of different learners. Now, all these, depending on what the teacher is trying to teach, you can get factors in deciding how and what to teach, to what age, and to get whatever experience that you're looking for. So the lessons and the course objectives will also guide you on which resources to look for. Down here are links to get as much information as possible. So just take your time and go in here. You will get a lot of information that will make you a very, very superb and effective teacher. Next. So as I've said earlier, methodologies are based on our beliefs. So which one would you want our learners to learn? What would you want your learners to learn? Would you want them to learn prescriptive grammar, grammar of the spoken English, grammar of the standard British English, decontextualized grammar, descriptive grammar, grammar of written English, or grammar of regional varieties of English, or contextualized grammar? Here down, you can get as much information as possible. So what we are going to do, we are going to ask what to share with us in the chat box. What kind of grammar would you like? But maybe if we could go to the next slide to see what each grammar aspect means, then we can come back and then we'll share in the chat box. So next slide, please. Okay, so descriptive grammar simply are a set of rules on how language is used. So in this particular case, we are the language in how we use it. So here there's no correct or there's no wrong one. That you use it for communicative purposes, and that is what the learners learn. So grammar or spoken English language, this is for everyday conversational speech, which in most cases is informal, very interactive, contracted, is filled up with many fillers. Like if you can see when we are talking, people will always go, as I was saying, with those kind of fillers. And it is based on specific content. What is it we are talking about? Grammar, a lot of intonation and stress. That is the spoken English for you. Now, what about grammar of the written English? We know for sure as teachers of English that this is quite formal. It is structured. It has mostly complete sentences. The varieties of sentences are, there are varieties of sentences. It is precise. Punctuation marks are used. And there's consistency in tense, tone, and style. Now, the contextualized grammar is meaningful grammar in context. That is, we are going to delve more on this and we shall learn. So we go back to the other slide, the previous slide. So we'll request you, just on the chat box, which grammar would you want to teach your learners? Which one? Just indicate the number. Which one would you want to teach? Here in the chat box,
Can you see what people are putting, Antonin? You can see them, or would you like me to read them out?
Yes, I can see them. I can see them. Linda.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Fiona. I can see you. 2 and 8. Faith Mudoka, thank you. I can see you talking about 8. Noah Otok is talking about number 8. This is contextualized grammar. Thank you. Descriptive grammar, Rebecca Okoth will talk about, would want to. Thank you very much. So most of us are would like to talk about grammar of the spoken English, contextualized grammar, contextualized grammar. Thank you very much. So thank you. At least we now know where to put our emphasis on. Now, next slide. Okay, now that you have known what grammar you'd want to emphasize on, how would you want to do it? How can we teach grammar? What's the difference between these two teaching approaches? What is inductive grammar teaching? And what is deductive grammar teaching? Because of time, we shall not talk so much about it, but here in this database, you find a lot of information. Kindly take time, go over this, and just read. You will know so much about it, and your teaching methodology will never be the same, I assure you. So take time. I can see somebody's already telling us about them. So let's go to the next slide and see. Okay, so inductive and deductive, which one? This is the question. Which one, when, and why? So an inductive approach to the teaching language starts with examples. Ask learners to find rules and then practice. Don't worry if you have not understood. We shall go over it at length. The next one, a deductive approach to teaching language starts by giving learners rules. Then examples, then practice. So let's see more on this. Now we have a story here. At the end, please be very careful. At the end of this story, there are questions that we would want you to answer. Briefly, go through this story, very, very briefly. Maybe if we could have one person take us through the story, a volunteer kindly, so that we are very sure all of us have read the story.
Yesterday, we walked to the park and played football with our friends. We laughed and enjoyed the sunny weather. Soon after, we saw a big bird that flew above our heads and landed on a nearby tree. My friend stared at it, but he tripped over a rock and fell in a pool of water. We felt sorry, but still laughed at him. We helped him out, and then he changed into clean clothes. We sat together and enjoyed the snacks we carried along as we talked about our next activities. Then we went home happy before it began to rain.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, that's a passage from where we have questions. So from here, very briefly in the chat box, identify the verbs in the passage. Very, very, very fast. Very quickly identify the verb. And so that we don't repeat, put the verbs in two categories. Thank you, Seth. I can see. Put the verbs in two categories. Thank you, Geoffrey. Can see your writing. Geoffrey has even gone a step ahead. Thank you, Emmanuel. Rogers, thank you. Faith. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. There are some verbs that I have not seen yet. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I believe from the chat box, we can see in the first category, most of us have identified walked, played, laughed, landed, stared, stripped, helped, changed, enjoyed, carried, and talked. In the second category, we have seen, saw, flew, fell, felt, and began. So thank you very much for your answers. Now go through the verbs that you have just identified. What pattern do you see in verbs in category 1? And what is pattern in verbs in category 2? Briefly again in the chat box, I can see. Category 1 and category 2, what is the pattern? Thank you. Thank you, Koech Moses. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judith. I can see you. Where are the others? Josephine Omeno, thank you. Geoffrey, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So generally, most of us have said in category 1, these verbs have ed at the end. They have ed at the end. And in category 2, somebody has told us that these are, the category 1, majority of us have said they are regular verbs. So in short, we are saying regular verbs, according to this passage, form their past tenses by either adding ed that we have seen, most of them here, apart from carried, which ends with a y, carry. So we have changed the y to I and then added ed, still regular. So there are several other regular verbs that we have talked about, and I believe you know how many of them change to past tenses. Now, did you find any pattern with the category 2? Can you predict? Thank you, Beatrice. Beatrice is telling us that category 2 have morphological difference from the 1. So these ones have no particular way. Yeah, some of them have changed the vowels, but there's not a particular way, just like the one we have in category 1. So these ones are irregular. That's why they are called irregular. So you must learn them individually and master them. So this is the answer to this question. So thank you. Thank you. Feel, felt, see, saw, thank you. So basically that is it. Now let's go to the next slide. At least you have an idea of what we are talking about. Look at this exercise. Fill in the blanks with the correct form of the verb in brackets. In the chat box again, try to fill. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. Thank you, Josephine. Rogers, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So that means you are already following the pattern. Now, what about the second exercise? We write the following sentences, changing the verbs in their past tense. Are we able to do that also? Thank you. Many of us are still in the first practice. I wish that we go to the second. Thank you, Ezina. Wangare, thank you. Thank you very much. So, from this exercise then, we are able to come up with rules on how verbs in this passage have changed or have inflected for past tense. We can categorically say that. So, whatever we have gone through from the language in context where we started to where we are now, we have now come up with a rule. Basically, if I give you time, you can tell me which verbs will add ed, which verbs will add d, which verbs will add just or will inflect in different ways. So which verbs will change the y and then replace it with IED? I believe they are very, very clear. The rules are now clearer to you. So Suppose now we have the rules here, down where we are. And then we take us back consistently to where now finally we come to the activity where we had the passage. That is now going to be, Tesfaye has answered. So Tesfaye has told us, wow, that is now inductive. So we are helping him to change into clean clothes. Now, people are answering different questions, but from the general language in context, then we've come to practice, and then now we can take it a little higher and now ask the learner to use the language freely by maybe using past tenses or having a dialogue using past tenses, having a role play using past tenses. So we keep on practicing the language. At the end of it all, I believe the context will be much ingrained in them. So we chose to use the past tenses here, but you can use several others. Because of time, there were lots and lots of information on even the passives, how we can do it, how we can do all manner of aspects of language. So we want to go to the next. So what I'm saying here is, if we could pick it from here and go to the first one, we will have gone the deductive approach, but we are still going to that. So here we are. Look at this piece of writing here. It is called The Swing. It's a poem. Look at the letters. Look at the way the letters are shaped. I believe you're seeing them well. What have you noted about these letters? Particularly on, let's zero in on this line. What can you say about the letter formation here? From the chat box, please tell me or tell us something. Okay, so that we move very quickly, we don't get caught up. Look at these letters here. We can see the capital letter here is big. It is touching on the top line. O here is small. It is just half the line. The two of them. D is up and O is here, down again, just on the same level with this. Then letter Y here is down, just almost reaching the middle line, the bottom line here. So likewise, we can see letter L is up, R is in the middle, all the way to letter G and the rest. So if you would write these letters, maybe if I would give you a chance, you draw a line like this. Somebody has told us about ascenders and descenders. Thank you very much. If you would draw a line on each of these letters, you'll find that this one is coming down, the others are going up, and so forth. So we'll come up with the letters that are level, like these two. The letters that go up, that are the ascenders, and those ones that come down are the descenders. And if you'll discover this. So the tall letters, the short letters, and those that descend, and discuss your observation. So maybe later on in class, if you realize, you see there are students who are struggling with handwriting, you could go this direction so that they discover this on their own. So the discovery is, there are letters, thank you, Melisse, so ascenders and descenders. Apart from the ascenders and descenders that we see here, what else have you noted in this piece of writing in as far as the handwriting is concerned? The next slide, please. So now compare what we have to these ones. This is drawn from work written by some learners. Are you able to single out any challenges here? What challenges have you seen? Particularly in the way the letters are shaped compared to what we had seen earlier. So other than shape, I believe you can see several others. I believe maybe briefly in the chat box, what have you seen? Okay. Oluoko is saying something. Others, please. What do you think? What are the faults here in any of this? Some Melissa is saying some letters cannot be seen. Spacing is not uniform. Thank you. That is from Lillian. Leonard is saying they are mixed. Others are slanting letters. Others are illegible letters. Thank you. Lack of utilization of space. So if you look at this, some letters are just slanting in all directions. We can see this particular writer here was trying to press so hard that I believe you touch the other side of the paper, it will actually scratch your hands. So what the challenge with this one could have been pressing so hard. Now this one decided to be so scratchy, yeah? Scratchy, so that maybe not enough force. And the letters are also shaped in a way that some are all slanting in all directions. These ones are very, very difficult to read. So we find, if you find this kind of learners in your class, they are writing this way, definitely. Research has shown that this generally affects their self-esteem because mostly the teachers, even their fellow peers, will laugh at them. No, and most what we teachers say, we simply say, work on your handwriting, work on your handwriting. So I work on my handwriting and this is the best that I can do. So this is why it is very, very important to know exactly what the problem is. Pressing too hard, not pressing enough, shaping letters, where do they start, and all that. So then we could suggest what are the possible, maybe in the interest of time, we could say, what solutions, this one here, what solutions, maybe in the chat box, kindly, what solutions would you suggest for improvement? In the chat box in a minute. So that you don't just simply tell them work on your handwriting. Some will refuse to hand in their work because they know the teacher will be angry with them on the way they write. Others will get very low marks because the teacher is so frustrated with the way they write. Yeah. So offer opportunity for practice and so forth. So basically, you can get time to show them how to write, constant practice, continuous practice. So continuous practice, even if you want them to practice continuously, give them articles or give them activities that are interesting to them, that are valuable to them, that they can relate with. And do not just tell them to copy. Show them maybe if the problem with this one is pressing, guide them on how to hold the pen and the amount of energy to put so that they write properly. If this, like this, the second one, who is scratching so likely, also needs practice. Where do you start? How do you shape the letters? How do you use the lines here? If you go in the market, there are plenty of information that you can use to help these learners so that they are not frustrated, you are not frustrated, they are able to get the best. Next slide. So there's somebody saying when I write on the side, I should also write properly. So what is the difference then between these two? So far, I believe you have noted. So we can just go to the next one so that we don't. Okay, so here, this is another example. Which one? Let's go with the first one here. Here is today's grammar. I wish plus past simple to want to change a present state. For example, I wish I was on the beach. I wish I had black hair. I wished I lived in El Salvador. Kindly write at least 1 or 2 sentences like this one. Okay, Josephine is still on handwriting. Josephine, thank you. We can still go on and on. Handwriting is deductive. Please, Lillian, give us an example of a sentence like the ones given here. An example? I wish I was a medical doctor. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa is a very active student here. Elizabeth, thank you. I bought food in good time. Thank you. I wish I could go to Mass. I wish I was rich. I wish I had a car. I wish, thank you. Who is this? I wish I were a boy. Thank you. I wish I had money. Isaac or Bart. Thank you, Isaac. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we could go on and on and on, and somebody has told us this one is a deductive way of teaching. We are beginning from the rules. From here now, we can go to give them a lot of practice to make sure they perfect in a controlled environment, they perfect the language structure, the target language structure that we want to teach. Then from there, we give them practice. Now look at this one. I like this picture very much. Now look at this. What do you think is in the mind of this gentleman here? Still the same structure. I wish. In the chat, what is in the mind of this gentleman? I wish I was this handsome. Thank you. I wish I was young. Thank you, Ndumu. I wish I was young. Thank you. I wish I was this young. Wow. It is a matter of youth. I wish I was young. Thank you. I wish I were young. Somebody will wish was a robot. Okay. So if we go on with this, then we learn the concept, we check with questions, we give controlled and restricted practice, and then we give freer an activity where they are able now to use this kind of language structure. Then we are now talking about a deductive approach. Thank you very much. Next. Next slide, please. Okay. So what is most important to you when you choose a methodology? What will guide you in choosing whichever methodology? There are very many at our disposal, but what would you consider? Choose the most 3 important ones for you and write the numbers in the chat box. What would you consider? What would you consider most as you choose a method to teach? Let's try to hurry. Time is long gone. Okay. 1, 2, 4. Beryl, thank you. Linda, thank you. That is how learner-centered it is. Thank you. That is, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for participating. At least you have gained something. Before you choose a methodology, maybe some of us are saying they'll consider how easy it is. How easy is it for the learner? Like Xavier has picked almost each one of them here. How much teacher experience it needs? How communicative it is? Remember, the purpose of teaching grammar is should be very, very communicative so that the learner use the language in context. Okay, how well built, how learner-centered, all of these have been mentioned. So for you, if that is the case, then go for it. Let it guide you to choose whichever language or methodology you're going to use at whichever time. Remember, there's no right or no wrong. What is important is just what is suitable at the time. Next slide.
I think it's good to go past these now, and people can look at those later.
Yeah,
there's
you
not
could
enough
look at this
time.
later because of time.
Let's move on to this matching task.
Okay. Now let's look at these ones. Let's match. Which methodology would you use here now? Just put in the chat box still. We would explain which in the slides that we have just talked about, we have just skipped, was explaining all this. But again, you can take your time and just study and know how they are beautiful methods to use. So in the chat box, which one would you, which one means what to you? Maybe Linda, you could help me read this now.
I think people are doing it correctly. Yeah, people have put 1D, which is correct. TPR.
Thank you.
4A, great for skills. Yeah. What about 2 and 3? Which ones would you match? Which one needs more experience, do you think? 2C, I agree, yes. TTT, test, teach, test, when you're not sure how much they know already, so you can test it first. 2C, and then 3. There's only one left. 3B, yes. PPP, I think, was formulated originally for newer teachers because you can prepare it all in advance and you're not responding too much to what students know or not. Great, well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now next. Okay. So how do you select? This is just a recap. How do you select appropriate resources? Appropriate resources. We said the criteria could be from the information we have given you on where to get the material. You can use it as it is. And I assure you, just interact with it. There's a lot of beautiful information. You can adapt, you can replace it. And before you do that, think of the audience and its relevance so that it guides you on which one to use when. Educational focus, ease of preparation and use, and accuracy and authority. There is a lot of information. There's a good job which has been done here. So take time and interact. Next. So these are now takeaway tips. Takeaway tips. I would want one of us to volunteer and take us through this in just a second.
Takeaway tips.
Thank you.
Use the teaching knowledge database to look up or check more terms.
Mhm.
Try out one of the methodologies in class that you haven't used much before and report back to another teacher. 3, think while planning lessons if any other methodology would be more appropriate. 4, experiment. Try teaching the same language content you've taught before with a different methodology. Was it more or less effective? 5, discuss and share everything with others.
Dear colleagues, this is our appeal. Now that you have an idea of diverse methods that are there, do something, go through them, use them, practice them, so that you don't teach in the same way. You teach everything in the same way. At least let the learner see the diversity and appreciate and discover what they are learning at every other time. You will also enjoy. I believe when the lesson is enjoyable, the teacher is so happy. I believe you can try this. Maybe I believe you have taken a screenshot of this. This is our assignment. Go try it out. It will go well with you and the learners. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for joining. Many of you have joined. We were at 78 at some time, now we are at 71. I believe others have been bullied by the connectivity, but there's no problem. You will always get to interact with these. Do we have any questions?
I haven't seen any questions in the chat yet. I've been checking. I wonder if we got about 2 minutes. I wonder if anyone would like to put their hand up and ask a question about anything here. I think Frederick can share the slides later with the participants, or Rukia can.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. I think we'll share the slides later under the recording. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And it was quite an enjoyable session, quite interactive. Most of us at least got informed, and I think we enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's great. I hope everyone looks up all the different methodologies and covers the parts that we didn't have time to cover on TBL, TTT, ESA, all those other. There are so many different methodologies, and we need to think how we choose the ones that we use, don't we? Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you very much to Linda. Thank you, Linda. You're great. Thank you.
Thank you to Antonine as well.
Thank you to Leonard too.
Yes.
And all of us who participated in this. I think somebody has said that they have changed the way they are teaching forever.